the saga of why I'm not surprised that I ended up with lung cancer continues. Now I'm in my late 20s. I've had all these very peculiar health problems. Now I'm starting to have mental health problems after being to maybe 8, 10, 12 different kinds of practitioners. Now I'm in a suicidal depression. I have an infant. I'm having suicidal ideation while driving this kid in the car. And at one point I have one of these full-blown panic attacks that I absolutely can't pull out of. And at that point, I was so depressed and so anxious that they knew what my diagnosis was. Now I had to go to a psychiatric hospital. So I went off to a psychiatric hospital for a month, and I'm hopping like a bunny when they tell me to hop like a bunny, and I'm weaving baskets when they're telling me to weave baskets, and I'm going to all this group therapy, and I'm being psychoanalyzed about my relationship with my father in the middle of the night by social workers, which is probably not a good person to be psychoanalyzed by in the middle of the night. And I'm in there for a month thinking, I am so sure that I have an undiagnosed medical problem. I think that I'm sane and they're crazy and they're putting me on drugs. One day I ended up in a padded room. I had such a bad reaction to the drugs. The nurse said, "You're disturbing your roommate." And I'm like, this is not the place where I'm going to get better. But at least I was intelligent enough to recognize that something was seriously wrong that had not yet been diagnosed. So I said, I'm just going to do everything they tell me to do. So they're going to release me, and then I'm going to start doing my own research and figure this whole thing out. So that's what I did. After a month, I got out and I started doing research. And of course, there was no internet in those days. So I literally went into the library and sat my fanny down on the floor in the self-help section. And I said to myself, this is the old Princeton Library, someplace in these shelves is the answer to my problems. I just have to pull the correct book off the shelf. And so I would go through the index, and to make a long story short, I found my way to Bob Atkins and these vilified quack buster target doctors who were doing all kinds of interesting work with targeted nutritional therapies and looking more closely at our thyroids. This is over 30 years ago. Now this stuff is just the standard fare. Everybody is eating from the hands of what used to be the alternative medicine doctors. They're called functional medicine doctors, and you can get board certified in it. But back then, they were just totally believed to be quacks. And I thought to myself, if I ever start having mental health issues again, I'm going to go straight to the biggest quack that I can find, which it did happen 4 years later. And I ended up in the practice of Bob Atkins, who's more famous for being a diet doctor. And that's where I started to figure out that I had these problems with environmental toxins, and my blood sugar was on a roller coaster. And so I don't have my whole story, but I have part of my story, that the reason that I am such a nutcase is that my body is filled with toxins and I can't manage my blood sugar.